Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy, which is also called doubtful cause or false causality in some cases. So the Latin phrase post hoc ergo propter hoc basically means after this, therefore because of this. This is an argument from causality. And causality is a common argument to be made, particularly in certain disciplines. The sciences, for instance, often try to trace why things have happened. What is the causal relationship between two events? Is there a causal relationship, or is there merely correlation? Post hoc, and there is a common phrase that people very often use when talking about the temporality of events, which is that correlation does not equal causation, which means just because two things happen either simultaneously or one slightly before the other doesn't mean that one is a cause of another. And that's very true. That is a good point. In order to establish causation as opposed to correlation, the correlation would be happening simultaneously or slightly staggered, whatever it is. In order to establish causation, that one event, that the subsequent event occurred because of the first event, you have to show that there's a direct link between them. That this thing happened because that had happened, and this would not have happened if that hadn't happened. That's often a very difficult thing to do, particularly in, say, the social sciences, right? The social scientists, people like sociologists, psychologists, economists, very, very often are interested in what causes particular trends in the world. People in the hard sciences are as well, but that's a little bit more, that's often more subject to direct control and experimentation, repeated observation, etc., etc. So let's say, for instance, there is an increase in voter turnout for a specific party in the 2024 election cycle. Political scientists, sociologists might want to know why that happened. Now, there's a number of potential things. There's a number of potential causes, things that will correlate with that increase in turnout for that one particular party. But just because a bunch of things have happened at the same time does not mean that they have caused that increase. And so a post hoc argument would identify one of those things that have correlated with this and assume that that is the cause, right? The economy is doing really, really well, and so the incumbent party has gotten greater voter turnout than expected. That's a reasonable supposition, but it's a supposition. We haven't proved causation. We've proved correlation. These two things, this thing occurred, and therefore this was the result. The therefore is the problem. If we say this thing occurred and this thing occurred, that's fine. We are identifying correlation. But until we can actually say, this is the reason why this happened, there would not have been this increased voter turnout for the incumbent party if it were not for the good economy, we can't really establish causation. And so any argument that assumes a causal relationship that hasn't been proven is falling for the post hoc fallacy. And again, this is basically a problem because it relies on an unproven assumption. Now, that assumption might be right, but the structure of the argument is not sound. And again, that's the key thing with logical fallacies. Even if the conclusion is correct, the argument that gets there is not reliable. It is not a trustworthy way of proving that the argument is correct. And so that's one of the things we get with post hoc. It is a fallacy that doesn't even necessarily imply that the conclusion is incorrect. It just implies that the argument supporting the conclusion should not be trusted. Post hoc is also the fallacy, the thought process and fallacy that underpins superstitions, right? I wear my Penn State jersey for every game and we always win. Therefore, we win because I wear my Penn State jersey. So the idea of lucky object, the idea of rituals, right? Sports players especially do rituals. Many theater people have distinct rituals they will go through before they go on stage because they believe it will bring them luck in their game, in their performance, in whatever it is. Anybody who's worn lucky underwear to take a test or something like this, for a job interview, something like this. But also the belief that if you break a mirror, you get 7 years bad luck, for instance. Presumably, at some point, someone broke a mirror and then started to feel like they were having bad luck. The idea that if a black cat crosses your path, it's bad luck. Same principle. You take two things that, in those cases, are not related whatsoever. There is no logical, rational reason to believe that seeing a black cat would in any way impact your luck. And I put luck in scare quotes because not everybody believes in luck, and it's not objectively true that luck exists at all. So this is the kind of thing, right? It's a post hoc argument depends on accepting a connection that has not really been shown to exist. And because it has not been shown to exist, it's not a trustworthy method of argumentation.